Hi, this is your host Abdul Bhartiya and welcome to another episode of TFR Let's Talk, and we are here at VMware Explore. And today we have with us once again Rob Hirschfeld, co-founder and CEO of RackN. Rob, it's great to see you again in person.
So it's a pleasure.
It's been a while.
It seems like it's been a couple of years.
Yeah. And since you're moving close to my location, so we will be seeing each other. A lot of shows we'll be recording will be in person.
We'll be in person again.
Yeah. But let's talk about where we are in person, which is VMware Explore. Officially, it's day one. So first of all, talk about, because you focus more on what you hear versus what you see on the stage.
I do. I'm a hallway track person.
Yeah. So tell me what you have been hearing, because VMware, Broadcom, a lot of things are happening.
Yeah, Broadcom is the gorilla in the room. Everybody's sort of waiting for the shoe to drop and figure out what's going on with Broadcom. It's the VMware people I talk to are cautiously optimistic, but they just don't know. And I don't think that they're holding back. I think that some of those things are still to come. But I haven't seen the fear and gnashing of teeth that Broadcom's going to disrupt a lot of VMware. But we'll see. I think customers are a little bit more nervous about it. And there hasn't been a lot of direction from the keynote stage on what's post Broadcom acquisition. And that makes customers really nervous. That's a hard thing.
As you said, elephant in the room is still there. Let's just talk about the solutions, and the technology that they are building. Did you attend keynote? Did you go through any announcement? What are the things that you saw were on the right track?
This is going to sound funny, but VMware's making a lot of positive incremental progress. And that's actually a really good thing. It's the things that you saw in the keynote. The things that you saw in the keynote were really incremental improvements, right? Performance improvements, doing things faster, adding capabilities that people have been asking for. That sort of, just plain, hey, we're making progress is actually really comforting to a lot of customers, especially when things are very uncertain from a Broadcom perspective. You have to think through, is a customer going to adopt something that's innovative or really weird when there's change coming? So I think it was sort of reassuring from that perspective. There were a lot of cloud technology pieces. We expected that. And VMware's clearly investing heavily in its cloud partners from that perspective.
And if you go back to the acquisition part, this is not the first time VMware is kind of AMC, Dell. Yeah. So it has a lot of core people. The core vision, it kind of remains. It doesn't matter who the umbrella, what the umbrella is, because this consolidation is happening across the board. Red Hat, IBM, or wherever you look at, consolidation, massive consolidation is happening. But the most important thing is not losing the track.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt, there's a consolidation, especially for the self-managed on-premises crowd. There's a lot to do from that perspective. VMware on compute, networking, and storage has a lot of innovation. They have a lot of things that they're working on. There's a lot of places for that technology stack to improve, to become more manageable, to be more integrated in the cloud, to create more portability. So there's no doubt that there's opportunity with this. And VMware is very, very well positioned. There's nobody better positioned to handle that. It becomes a question of, are customers worried about the price? Are they worried about license changes? There's things that could disrupt that forward momentum.
Right, and since you brought this point, when you're talking about acquisitions and the customers are worried, this is something because this came out in the news also, that the focus will be more to move towards subscription-based model, to move away from either license or increase. So, and you do work with a lot of users, customers. So, yeah. What are the real fears that you have seen that people are actually worried about?
Price is always a fear. Without a doubt, VMware has a lock in the data center, and they're a critical infrastructure piece, and they're hard to displace. And so customers are worried that they're going to be forced to pay high fees in the subscription model, and that's going to get yanked out from under them. And so I think that companies want to have that sort of locked-in guarantee on the pricing. I don't see a lot of concerns that people are, we do a lot of bare metal. We have probably the most advanced bare metal automation on the planet from an end-to-end solutions perspective. But, I think the challenge we see is there just aren't people who are trying to rip out their hypervisors and move everything to bare metal. Even Kubernetes on bare metal, while a lot of people want to talk about it, we just don't see it being as driven in market. And so the hypervisor still has a place, even as we containerize things and move things forward. And that's not surprising. And I would add in this, people typically think of VMware from a compute side. It really is a network company, a storage company, and a compute company. And those things are combined together. That's where customers are getting the most value out of the solution.
VMware does do a lot of things. The product line, is, you have to really long page to look at all the vSphere, vSAN, whatever, and then of course you come all the way to Tanzu and everything else is there. It's a big, giant portfolio there.
The Tanzu thing is interesting because I really do think that, and a lot of that goes back to Pivotal and development process and things like that. I think it's a challenge here to figure out, are they selling to developers or are they selling to operators? And that is one of the big challenges with what's going on with Tanzu. Tanzu has, it's Kubernetes. It's got a whole bunch of pieces that are influenced by Pivotal and real enterprise experience. And so VMware has a lot to offer in that. But they almost need two events here. They need a developer event to attract developers, and they need an operator or sysadmin event to attract operators and sysadmins. It's not as clear to me that they've got both. And actually, if you walk out on the floor, what you'll see is a lot of operations, VDI, networking, things like that. You don't see a big development, APM, CI/CD crowd. That's missing at this marketplace. And I think that's telling, right? It's what the show is for customers.
Have you talked to, of course, we're talking about the booth presence that is there, the vendors, the partners are there.
Right.
But have you also, when you talk to the crowd, are you talking about the attendees where you talk to people and they are here in those places? Or are you talking about the companies who are presenting here?
It's a good question. Definitely it's the companies that are presenting here and the booths. And a little bit on what the booth traffic is also. It'd be very hard to do a comprehensive survey of the users from that perspective. That's one of the things. This is really a vendor show, so there are customers here. There's a lot of people walking around. It's not always easy to interface with them. They're here to learn and get educated.
Let's talk about RackN. First of all, talk about where do you see yourself in the VMware ecosystem? Number two is, with this changing dynamics because of this potential acquisition, how will that impact RackN?
RackN does a huge amount of VMware. We install, our product installs, it's all self-managed. VMware tens of thousands of times, hundreds of thousands a year, globally distributed fleets. So we do a lot with VMware. We just announced some even more full stack integrations with VMware, where we're going from bare metal machines all the way through the life cycle, driving Cloud Builder automation, which is VMware's automation stack for building vCenter, and then up stack for day two operations. So a really comprehensive suite of automations around VMware products for customers. And so, we really see customers wanting more and more from VMware. In some cases, they want to see it more decoupled. So our customers would definitely prefer to see VMware more as a box of products than a suite, so they could pick and choose a little bit from that perspective. But we see actually really interesting opportunities from a Broadcom perspective and a partner perspective, because the need for process and governance and automation around VMware products is high. Customers really want to be able to deploy small VMware clusters or global VMware clusters, or redeploy VMware and patch and manage and do all that work. And it's something that VMware as a software company always sort of tried to get in front of, especially when they were Dell EMC. They were very focused on helping Dell do that. And sometimes they would message to our customers that they want to own that piece of the pie. They always plan to. But with Broadcom, it's likely that they're going to not be as ambitious to build quite as integrated a suite, right? They're going to let, hopefully, for us, RackN, they're going to let us help the customers run VMware better. And that actually, to me, is the biggest thing that we would look for is, eager partnership where we're helping customers, be more productive VMware consumers. Broadcom seems like they want to sell a lot of VMware licenses. We want to help them do that.
What else are you seeing here? One thing that, what our discussion I have had, I always bring the discussion around edge, because edge is, and when we talk about edge, we are not talking about small IT devices, which is part of it. I'm talking about the edge data center, because that's where a lot of things are moving. There are a lot of limitations, there are benefits. You don't move everything to the cloud because of a lot of issues, which also means that a lot of things, they happen at the edge itself. So what have you seen from VMware's perspective is happening in the edge space?
They're definitely messaging that they're interested in edge. And edge is certainly a huge growth area where VM is advantaged, right? If you're going to build an edge infrastructure, it has to be self-contained, it has to have its own hypervisor, it has to have all those pieces. Maybe it doesn't have to have a hypervisor, it's very likely to. The challenge I see with edge here, as well as anywhere else, is it's hard to treat it like an IT problem right now. And so we're still talking about edge quite a bit. VMware is working really diligently to create smaller and smaller footprint, different form factors and architectures, and you see that in this release. What we haven't talked about yet, and this is always a favorite topic for RackN, is how are we going to manage that? How are we going to replicate the installs? How are we going to deal with having no admins involved? And so I think we're still missing that part of the conversation when we talk about edge. We talk about building hardware and putting virtualization on it. We don't talk about managing sites without people, or having hundreds of sites and manage them in a coherent way. And it's different than hybrid cloud and multi-cloud from that perspective, which we hear a lot about here. And I think all those things are still bigger challenges than we have easy answers for. Even though for all the messaging of hybrid cloud, multi-cloud, super cloud, whatever you want to call it, it's still operations, and those are really hard operations problems.
You did talk about that the whole, we are also talking about a lot of automation these days, and edge is a very good example, because you really need fully automated self-healing. You not only you cannot send folks there, but that's not the whole idea of having edge data centers. So talk about once again, you said you're not seeing much from VMware's happening, or?
I see a lot of discussions, and I see edge being like there's a couple of case studies that I've seen for edge, but there really isn't a coherent, this is how I go build an edge data center. This is how I manage an edge data center. Those are hard topics, and we don't have very concrete answers for that are easy to replicate. There's a little bit of hand waving, and I think the same thing is true with what you see in smart NICs or DPU, where it's these sidecar systems they're getting built into the hypervisor. We talk about them; they clearly have advantages and performance benefits and things like that, but we don't have a lot of management tools for it. And so, if you're going to build a fleet of DPU-based hypervisors, first thing you're going to need to know is, how am I going to patch them? How am I going to do the install? How am I going to roll all that stuff out? So It's one thing to say, yeah, it's a better architecture or it's a performant architecture. It's a whole different thing to describe how you administer that. And that's who's coming to this show. The customers who are at this show want practical solutions to run and install VMware. They want to know what's coming, but they're going to go home and have to make stuff operate and turn on flip switches and, install applications. And so, you have to be pragmatic for this audience. And that's hard.
Rob, once again, thank you so much for sitting down with me. It's been a while we sat down and talked to each other, so it was refreshing to be in the same room, big room, and talk to each other. But thanks for sharing those insights and also areas where customers are kind of nervous and worried. But I also see that a lot of efforts are going from VMware side in a way to reassure that customer. But acquisitions are always challenging. There's always some kind of uncertainty, panic, nervousness around that. Unless the dust settles down after 6 months, then we start seeing that what the actual things will take shape. So, and that's where we are.
And even if they do get a little bumpy, right? At the end of the day, these companies are very good at listening to their customers, and there's a lot of hang on through the turbulence. Broadcom wants you to be a happy customer.